Frank Costello. The name might not carry the instant recognition of an Al Capone or a Lucky Luciano, but in the shadowy annals of organized crime, Costello was a titan. He was known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld. This moniker hinted at his vast influence and power. Costello's story is one of cunning, ambition, and the ruthless pursuit of power. Costello's life reads like a classic gangster film. It's a tale set against the backdrop of Prohibition-era America. It was a time when the illegal liquor trade fueled the rise of powerful criminal empires. And at the heart of this world was Frank Costello. He was a master strategist. Costello understood the intricacies of power. He knew how to build alliances and exploit weaknesses. His story is a fascinating journey into the heart of the American Mafia. It's a story of ambition, betrayal, and the intoxicating allure of power. Born Francesco Castiglia in 1891, Costello's early years were marked by poverty. He immigrated to the United States from Italy as a child. He grew up in the rough streets of East Harlem, New York City. It was an environment that would shape his destiny.
The streets were my classroom. They taught me survival. I learned the art of negotiation and the importance of loyalty.
It was during these formative years that he met and befriended another young hoodlum, Charlie Luciano. This partnership would change their lives and the landscape of organized crime forever. Costello was drawn to the criminal underworld. He saw an opportunity to escape poverty and achieve power. His early criminal activities were petty theft and gang warfare, but he quickly rose through the ranks. His intelligence and strategic mind set him apart. Costello understood that violence was a tool, not a solution. He preferred negotiation and diplomacy to brute force. This approach, combined with his sharp business acumen, would become his trademark. New York City in the early 20th century was a melting pot of cultures and ambitions. The city was alive with the hustle and bustle of people from all walks of life, each one chasing their own version of the American dream. The streets were filled with the sounds of different languages, the smells of diverse cuisines, and the sights of a rapidly growing metropolis. It was a city on the rise, fueled by immigration and industrialization. Waves of immigrants arrived daily, bringing with them hopes for a better future. Factories and skyscrapers sprang up, symbolizing progress and opportunity. The promise of prosperity drew people in, but the reality was often much harsher. But beneath the glitz and glamour lay a dark underbelly. The city's rapid growth also gave rise to poverty, corruption, and crime. The stark contrast between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses was evident on every corner. The streets, while vibrant, were also dangerous, with crime lurking in the shadows. Organized crime thrived in this environment. The lack of regulation and the desperation of many created a perfect breeding ground for criminal enterprises. Gangs and mobsters saw opportunities where others saw despair, and they capitalized on the chaos. Prohibition, the nationwide ban on alcohol, was a goldmine for gangsters. The law, intended to curb alcohol consumption, instead fueled an underground economy. Speakeasies, secret bars where alcohol was served illegally, popped up all over the city. The demand for illegal liquor skyrocketed. It created a massive demand for illegal liquor. Bootleggers, those who smuggled and sold alcohol, became some of the most powerful figures in the city. The black market for alcohol was lucrative, and those who controlled it wielded significant influence. Costello, with his sharp mind and growing influence, saw the potential of this lucrative market. He was a man who understood the intricacies of power and the importance of strategic alliances. He quickly moved to establish himself as a key player in the city's burgeoning bootlegging operations. Costello's operations were efficient and ruthless, and he knew how to navigate the complex web of criminal activity in New York. His ability to outmaneuver his rivals set him apart. He navigated the treacherous world of rival gangs. The streets were a battleground, with different factions vying for control. Costello's keen sense of strategy and his ability to anticipate his enemies' moves allowed him to stay one step ahead. He forged alliances and eliminated threats. Costello knew that in order to survive and thrive, he needed to build a network of loyal allies. He was adept at negotiating deals and forming partnerships that would strengthen his position. Those who opposed him were swiftly dealt with. His reputation as a shrewd negotiator and a man of his word grew. In the underworld, trust was a rare commodity, but Costello's word was his bond. This earned him respect and fear in equal measure. His ability to broker deals and maintain order was unmatched. Costello understood that power was not just about brute force. It was about control, influence, and the ability to manipulate the system to his advantage. He knew how to pull the strings behind the scenes, ensuring that his operations ran smoothly and that his rivals were kept in check. It was about control, influence, and the ability to manipulate the system to his advantage. His rise was meteoric. From a small-time hoodlum, he transformed into a major player in the New York underworld. His ascent was marked by strategic moves and calculated risks. Costello went from a small-time hoodlum to a major player in the New York underworld. His journey was a testament to his cunning and ambition. He built an empire on the foundations of loyalty, fear, and respect. He was a force to be reckoned with, feared and respected in equal measure. Costello's influence extended far beyond the criminal world. He had connections in politics, law enforcement, and business. His legacy would be one of power, control, and an indelible mark on the history of New York City.
Costello's rise to power was a calculated ascent. He understood that true power lay not in brute force, but in control.
He saw prohibition as an opportunity. The illegal liquor trade became his ladder to the top. He established a vast network of bootlegging operations. His reach extended throughout New York City and beyond. He forged alliances with corrupt officials and law enforcement. Costello ensured that his operations ran smoothly and, more importantly, profitably.
Unlike some of his contemporaries, Costello preferred diplomacy over violence. He was a master strategist. He knew how to negotiate deals, build consensus, and maintain order. This approach earned him the respect of his peers and the fear of his rivals. He became known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld.
This nickname reflected his ability to influence events and maintain peace within the various factions of organized crime. Costello was a powerful figure operating from the shadows, pulling the strings of the city's underworld.
One of the most significant alliances in Costello's rise was his partnership with Charles "Lucky" Luciano. This partnership was not just a mere collaboration, it was a strategic alliance that would change the face of organized crime forever. Luciano, a ruthless and ambitious gangster, shared Costello's vision for a more organized and profitable criminal underworld. He was known for his sharp mind and his ability to see the bigger picture, which made him a formidable ally.
Together, they orchestrated a plan to eliminate the old guard of Mafia bosses. This was no small feat, as the old guard had been entrenched in their positions of power for decades. These bosses were stuck in their ways, clinging to outdated traditions. They resisted any form of change, believing that the old ways were the best ways. Costello and Luciano recognized the need for modernization and expansion. They saw that the world was changing, and that the Mafia needed to change with it if it was to survive and thrive. They believed that organized crime could be more profitable and less prone to internal strife if it was structured like a business. This was a revolutionary idea at the time, but one that would prove to be incredibly successful.
Their plan was audacious and dangerous. It required careful planning and precise execution. It involved a series of strategic assassinations and power grabs. These moves were designed to destabilize the old guard and pave the way for a new order. But Costello and Luciano were meticulous in their planning. They left nothing to chance, ensuring that every move was calculated and precise. They understood the risks and rewards. Their gamble paid off. The old guard was overthrown, and a new era of organized crime began. The old order crumbled, and a new era dawned in the American Mafia. This new era was characterized by a more organized and profitable criminal enterprise.
Luciano emerged as the most powerful figure in organized crime. His vision and leadership were instrumental in shaping the new order. Costello became his trusted advisor and right-hand man. Together they formed a formidable team that was able to control and expand their criminal empire. Their alliance reshaped the landscape of the underworld, paving the way for a more sophisticated and profitable criminal enterprise. This transformation was not just about making money, it was about creating a legacy that would endure for generations. The Luciano-Costello Alliance was a testament to the power of vision and strategic thinking in the world of organized crime. Their partnership set the stage for the future of the Mafia, influencing how criminal enterprises would operate for years to come. The impact of their alliance is still felt today, as the principles they established continue to influence the operations of organized crime. The legacy of Luciano and Costello is a powerful reminder of how two visionary leaders can change the course of history.
The Kefauver Hearings, a Senate investigation into organized crime in the early 1950s, were a pivotal moment in American history. These hearings were spearheaded by Senator Estes Kefauver, who was determined to expose the deep-rooted connections between organized crime and various sectors of society. The hearings were not just a legal proceeding, they were a dramatic spectacle that captivated the nation, threatened to unravel everything Costello had built. Frank Costello, known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, had spent years constructing a vast criminal empire. The hearings posed a significant threat to his operations, as they aimed to dismantle the intricate web of corruption and influence he had woven. These televised hearings exposed the inner workings of the Mafia to the American public. For the first time, ordinary citizens could see and hear the testimonies of notorious crime figures, revealing the extent of their operations and their influence over legitimate businesses and political figures.
Costello was called to testify. His summons was a significant event as it brought one of the most powerful and secretive figures in organized crime into the public eye. The anticipation surrounding his testimony was immense. He knew that his appearance could have disastrous consequences. The stakes were incredibly high, and Costello was acutely aware that any misstep could lead to his downfall. He was a private man who valued discretion. Costello had always operated from the shadows, and the idea of being thrust into the spotlight was anathema to him. The thought of exposing himself and his empire to public scrutiny filled him with dread. He had spent his entire career avoiding the limelight, and now he was being forced to confront it head-on. However, Costello was also a pragmatist. He understood that outright refusal to testify could be seen as an admission of guilt and could lead to even greater scrutiny and legal repercussions. He understood the importance of public perception. In the court of public opinion, how he presented himself could be just as important as the actual content of his testimony. He knew that outright defiance would only fuel the flames of suspicion. Defiance could be interpreted as arrogance or guilt, neither of which would serve his interests. So he agreed to testify. But this decision was not made lightly. It was a calculated move designed to mitigate the potential damage, but he did so on his own terms. Costello was determined to control the narrative as much as possible, even in such a precarious situation.
Costello insisted that his face not be shown on camera. This demand was a strategic move to maintain some level of anonymity and protect his identity from the prying eyes of the public. He answered questions with carefully crafted evasions. His responses were designed to reveal as little as possible while still appearing cooperative. He played the role of a legitimate businessman, denying any involvement in criminal activities. Costello's performance was a masterclass in obfuscation, as he sought to distance himself from the criminal underworld. The hearings were a media sensation. Newspapers, radio, and the burgeoning medium of television covered the proceedings extensively, turning the hearings into a national event. Millions of Americans tuned in to watch Costello and other underworld figures squirm under the scrutiny of the Senate committee. The public was fascinated by the drama and intrigue, and the hearings became a cultural phenomenon.
The Kefauver hearings marked a turning point. They brought the shadowy world of organized crime into the light, forever changing the public's perception of figures like Costello. The hearings not only exposed the extent of organized crime's reach, but also highlighted the need for significant legal and societal reforms to combat such pervasive corruption. The legacy of the Kefauver hearings is still felt today, as they set the stage for future efforts to tackle organized crime in America.